Pokemon Journeys episode 114, titled Training Battle of Flames, Ash vs Paul, is airing in just under a week. The main premise of this episode is that Ash will go to Professor Oak's lab to reunite with all his old Pokemon, to do some training for the Masters 8, and then to reunite with Paul for that same reason too. So in this video, I want to briefly talk about what I think is going to happen in this episode. And I have some exciting predictions, so let's just dive into it. First off, I want to talk about something in particular. The title of this episode is Training Battle of Flames, so there has got to be an emphasis on something related to fire. A lot of people assumed that this meant that Ash will be battling Paul using Infernape, but now this just does not seem likely because, as I'll explain later in the video, Ash is using his Journeys team to battle Paul, not Infernape. Right, so I may be way off the mark here, but look at this frame of Gengar surrounded by all of Ash's Fire-type Pokemon. Minus poor little Torkoal. The Journeys writers hate that poor tortoise for some reason. So looking at this frame makes me think that Ash's Fire-type Pokemon are going to work together to teach Gengar a new Fire-type move. And that is what the title of the episode is referring to. Gengar battling Paul with its new Fire-type move that it learned from Ash's Fire-type Pokemon. The only damaging Fire-type moves that Gengar can learn in the games are Fire Punch and Will-O-Wisp. So I think Ash's Fire-type Pokemon will band together and teach Gengar either Fire Punch or Will-O-Wisp before Ash battles Paul. I would love that. It would be the perfect way to train for the Masters 8. So that's what I think the episode title is referring to. Now let's move on to the main basis of the episode, the 3v3 training battle between Ash and Paul. Ash will be using Dragonite, Gengar and Lucario, while Paul will be using Garchomp, Metagross and Gyarados. So any eagle-eyed viewers have probably cottoned onto the fact that Paul is using the same Pokemon as the aces of the Masters 8 members. Cynthia's ace is Garchomp and Paul will be using his own Garchomp to battle Ash. Steven's ace is Metagross and Paul will be using his own Metagross once again to battle Ash. And finally, Lance's ace is Gyarados and Paul will be using his own Gyarados one more time to battle Ash. So Paul clearly intentionally brought these Pokemon along to train Ash, specially to prepare for the Masters 8. I genuinely love that idea. What a thoughtful lad Paul is. So the main matchups in their 3v3 battle, as shown in the episode preview, are Garchomp vs Dragonite, Metagross vs Gengar, and Gyarados vs Lucario. I want to quickly spend some time trying to predict how I think these battles will go. Let's start with what's in my opinion the most obvious one, Gyarados vs Lucario. In the preview trailer we saw Gyarados preparing a Hyper Beam, while Lucario, surrounded in aura, launches towards it. To me it's absolutely obvious that Lucario will win this battle. Like, it's so obvious. Lucario's aura was powerful enough to one-shot Raihan's Duraludon. There's no way at all that Lucario would ever lose to this Gyarados. Absolutely no chance. Now let's talk about Gengar vs Metagross. In the preview we saw a brief scene of Gengar teleporting around while Metagross chases it. I think Gengar is gonna win this battle. Not only does Gengar's ghost typing have an advantage over Metagross's psychic type, but most importantly, if my guess was correct and Gengar did learn a fire type move, either Will-O-Wisp or Fire Punch, then Gengar will absolutely win. Fire types are super effective against steel types like Metagross, so there's no way that Gengar will learn a fire type move and then lose to Metagross immediately after. Gengar is definitely going to beat Metagross, probably using its new fire type move. Now for the final one, Dragonite vs Garchomp. The preview showed some brief scenes of these two dragons clashing. I actually think that Dragonite is not going to win this battle, believe it or not. Garchomp and Dragonite are obviously both super effective against each other, and based on the preview, they seem equally matched in terms of power. So I really think that Dragonite will either lose against, or draw against, Paul's Garchomp after a long hard battle. And I mainly think this is the case because I think it will be used to set up Ash vs Cynthia in the Masters 8. If Ash's Dragonite fails to beat Paul's Garchomp, then I have a really strong feeling that Dragonite will later get the opportunity to make up for that loss by being the one to defeat Cynthia's Garchomp in the Masters 8 tournament. I think that would be the most perfect setup ever, and I really hope it happens. Also, I kinda feel like Ash winning every battle against Paul would be a massive shame, because I really think that Paul is still Ash's mirror image and is super powerful and at a similar trainer level to Ash. Bringing Paul back just to lose 3 battles in a row wouldn't be the best idea if you ask me. So yeah, give Paul one win, or at least like a draw or something. And Garchomp versus Dragonite, like I said before, clearly makes the most sense. So those were all my thoughts on this upcoming episode. I can't wait to see Ash reuniting with all his old Pokemon. I can't wait to see them all bonding and training for the Masters 8. I really can't wait to see Ash and Paul reuniting. But to be truthful, above everything else, the thing that I am most excited for is to see the reunion between Paul and Infernape. I want Infernape to blast Paul in the face with a massive flamethrower, very similar to how Pignite did with his old trainer Seamus. Paul got off way too easily for what he did to Chimchar. So yeah, I want Infernape to hit Paul with a flamethrower, and then I want Paul to truly apologise to Infernape. Overall, I genuinely think that Paul is returning in the most incredible way ever, and I cannot wait to see how it all unfolds. Let me know your predictions for the episode below, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It's a massive stretch if I'm honest, but I would love to hit 70,000 subscribers by the end of the month. And the only way to get there is by all of you smashing the subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.